Okay. Haha. Off mute. That is a good thing to double check. We're going to dig into the rest of the JWT authentication. We're going to hopefully get into doing some CRUD in our product catalog. But where we left off last time was we had a few bugs that were really blocking us. Let's dive in. So here's where we left it. I can log in, I can do some stuff, I can put in a password, but when I push submit, nothing happens. We also have this error right here. Well, let's dig into this error first because that's probably the easier of the two. Here's our site. Here in index.html, what it's telling us is that this integrity check is failing for this font awesome CDN. So yeah, CDNs being what they are. Let's head off to cdnjs.com. We'll search for font awesome. So font awesome, there's font awesome. And we only want the CSS details. We can pick the particular version we're after. The latest is probably fine. And we want this all one. And so we'll copy in the link tag. And this link tag then will include the integrity check, but now it's based on Cloudflare, not based on the font awesome CDN. And that's totally fine. So we'll probably need to refresh the page in a second. Let's do so. And let's see if, yep, that integrity check error is gone. And so now we see that the password viewer is lit up. So if we have our password here and we say, I want to view it, now we see the password, or we can flip back to having it hidden. That's perfect. Submit. This one was kind of fun. I was hitting a wall as we were doing this last time. Login. Here in our login component, here's our submit, which is probably better named login. And it's not of type equals submit. Because it's not type equals submit, then it's not submitting. So let's put in our content and, refresh. It's nicely rebuilding. Go, 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 go. There we go. Okay, so it's built. Let's hard refresh just in case. And let's log in. Log in. Ooh, we hit our breakpoint. That's perfect. So we're going to do all the things. Let's go to here. Continue to here. Now we've got our response. And our response includes two things. The first is our user object. And so that just tells us about our user. If we wanted to stash the email somewhere or the user ID, in time we may have a name, and that could be really interesting as well. And the second is this token. And this token is what we've been digging into before. So do we have data? This is probably actually better said, do we have a token? So let's say if we have a token, then let's go grab that token, and we're saving it as a JWT in all the places. So JWT, and then we'll dispatch this to login. This dispatch is actually an async method. So let's await this. And we don't need this debugger anymore. But if we await this dispatch, and then we could say, if we wanted to go really far, await view.nextTick. That'll ensure that all of the things inside getting this dispatch, getting it committed into the store, before we push to our next page, we'll know that we're authenticated. So let's do that. Refresh. I'm going to close this. Oh, I'll just close all of them. Close all. Okay, we'll log in. Password. Now we are in the middle of our store. So we've got our args. We've got both the email and the JWT. That's really cool. and then we'll commit them to our store. So if we go into the Vue developer tools, and you can just go grab this under the in the Chrome store, then we can see how this data worked. So we started out with this base state, and then we added the JWT things. Here's our mutation, here's our state, and then ultimately we ended up here where now we have both the JWT and the email set. I want to go copy that JWT, and let's head off to jwt.io, which is a really cool way to debug our JWT. You know, what's in it. We'll need to pull the quotes off the end. But a JWT is 3 parts, split by dots. So here's one dot and here's another dot. The first part here is the signature. So it decoded it here. It's not encrypted, it's signed. So these are just base 64 encoded pieces. But here's that signature detail. It's type JWT. It was signed with HS256. This next section is all of the content, the body of our message. And so here's that stuff that we have. Now, this is the user object, the ID and the email, but it also is an initiated at. So there's the time when it was created, and it expires at this time. And the cool part is that which we did with Express will automatically validate that when our JWT expires, then we know that that's no good. In time, we might want to do an auto refresh or a mechanism, but okay. Then this bottom part is that signature. So what it does is it takes this hash and this payload and signs it into interesting things. Now, we don't have the private key here to decrypt it, and that's totally fine. But we know that that verification is correct. The passport will validate that our private key is the one that actually signed this message, which is really cool. So there's our JWT, and our JWT is now inside the store. And so, hey, we're logged in. That's perfect. So let's do a couple of things about logging in and logging out. We have these 2 buttons, one that shows for logout, one that shows for login. These are actually V button 2, not V button href. Whoops. I think I might have done that up here as well. Nope. Okay, so now when I push logout, then we go to this logout page, which doesn't exist. Let's go build that logout page. Now that logout page, we could build the mechanism that separates those 2 pieces, the view and the component, but the logout page is, it's thin enough, maybe that's not necessary. Logout.view. Let's just grab the home view to start with. So here's logout, and we'll just say logout h1 logging out h1 script lang equals ts. Okay, we don't need this to be home. We don't need the component login, so we can remove that. We probably also don't need styling, but we have a mounted event. Now this mounted event is async, and that reaching into my notes, that async mounted event will just do some interesting things. We'll await view.nextTick just so that it'll render this logging out. It won't just be a blank screen. And then we'll say await store.dispatch logout, and then this.router.push to the home page. Let's go grab the store. We could choose to import store from /store. We could choose to import map getters or map mutations in this case, but just calling dispatch directly in this case seems to work out pretty well. Okay, so now we have a logout mechanism. Is it still building? It looks like it may have finished. Oh, we do need to restart it because this is a new file. Okay, so we have our logout mechanism, and let's fire that up as soon as it finishes building. Go, 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 go. But the next piece that we don't have is we don't have a guard that will hit the that will guard us from hitting the about page. And we'll say, for now, the about page is the one that's the authenticated page. So let's do this. Let's hit our main page. We'll log in. We can log in. Oh, let's go hit that, remove that breakpoint when we get there. Okay, so now we're logged in. We will log out. Here's our logout page. Oh, we didn't create a route for this. Let's go create a route for logout. Here in our router, index. Now, we have this about route, which is really cool. Let's also create a, we don't need that space. And let's make this a route config array. Let's make a logout route. Now this is logout and logout, and the component is logout. Now here, this is really cool. It will automatically create a Webpack chunk associated with this view, so it'll lazy load it. But in this case, this logout view, we probably don't need to lazy load it. There isn't a whole lot of times when we'll want to log in and log out, but do so lazily. It's probably one of the first things that we'll hit. Okay. So now when we hit our app, we can log in. asdf@asdf.com. Yes, let's go hit that debugger here in our store. Right there. Now we have actions that get data into the system. We have mutations that do stuff, and then we have getters that get stuff back out. So I generally like to list them this way: actions, then mutations, then getters. Ultimately, they're properties in an object, so it really doesn't matter. But now we've got that breakpoint removed. That's perfect. So we can log in. Now we can log out. And if we go log in, we're back to our home page. That's perfect. But if we go to /about, we're still on our about page, but we're not logged in. So to make that page to make it guarded, we can create a mechanism where after we construct our router, we can say router dot, let me reach into my notes, router dot before each. And this is a navigation guard. That's what they call it. And so it will take in a to, a from, and a next. Here are all of the things that we can do to validate that it is what it is. So we can say, well, if it's unauthenticated, if we're going to meta.unauthenticated, then that's totally fine. You can continue off to an unauthenticated page. And we haven't defined what that means, but if it's an unauthenticated page, return, you can just go. Now let's go see if we're authenticated. Is authenticated, and we're going to reach into the store.getters.isAuthenticated. Let's pull in that store. Import store from /store. Okay, so now that we can reach into that store, we have this is authenticated. So if you're not authenticated, then we're not going to let you go to where you need to go. We're going to send you to the login page. And the login page is the home page, so that's perfect. It might be cool to say console.log 401 not authorized for page. You know, we could do that to the console. That's kind of nice, just so that we know that that's the reason why. And then if you are authenticated, then go off to the page. Now we're not using from, and it might be interesting to do an async await thing so that we don't have the next, but yeah, it gets it done. We've now created this mechanism so that any transition from one page to another, including just loading the first page, will go through here, and if you're not authenticated, you'll go back to the home page. So we're reaching into this meta authenticated. So let's say that this meta unauthenticated is true. You can get to the login page without being authenticated. This is debatable, but I'm going to say you can get to the logout page without being authenticated too. Okay, so now that we have this guard in place, now if I come to the about page straight away, I'm not authenticated, I get that message, and I get to log in. If I log in, now I'm authenticated and I can do all the things. So I can come to the about page, I can click log out, and I'm back. Now we very specifically chose not to persist this JWT token. We may choose to change that decision in time, but right now this store is completely in memory. So if you refresh the page, you will become logged out. Some people like to put this in local storage. That local storage persists beyond the browser, and so it's possible that that key could leak. Session storage is a little bit better because it's geared towards the browser session, that browser tab, and so we may want to go there in time and store our JWT in session storage, or maybe, you know, all of the store data. But for now, we'll just say, hey, you need to go log back in. Perfect. So we've got that ready. We've got a mechanism where we can log in. We go grab that JWT, we persist it, and off it goes. Server side, how we log in is here in app.spec, or in app.ts rather. We initialize passport, where passport is that piece that does the mechanism of getting that JWT and encrypting it. So we have this new strategy, and then we have this verified JWT method that will say, you know, is this a valid JWT? In this case, we could go check the database and see if that user actually exists, but we've already checked to see that we've signed it, so we're okay. Then here in routes for auth, we do those two mechanisms, the one to get the current authenticated user, where we first authenticate and then go get the user, and second, login, where we post the username and password. And right now, we're not checking the database, but we could go check the database for that user. And we can say, if not user, then we're going to return res.status 401. And we could give it a JSON message that says invalid username and password. Now the goal is to tell them as little as possible about why this failed. So I'm going to say, if you didn't pass an email or a password, I'm just going to return right away. Now there is some timing attack, because if you didn't pass a username or password, then we're not even going to go hit the database. So it'll return faster. And yeah, okay. Yeah, we're susceptible to that timing attack right now. But once we rig up the database, then we'll be able to pull in that content. Now we're going to go sign that message, passing in the user as our body of the JWT content, and then we'll return that user in the token. In time, we also may want to prune the user coming out of the database here so that it doesn't include things like password, salt, maybe account balance. We'll definitely want to trim that in time. But that's server side, what's happening in the auth story. And client side, we now have our application ready to go. We can log in and log out. So next up, let's go create a bunch of pages to be able to browse our product catalog and to be able to change content in our product catalog. Now we already have a bunch of that content here in our regular app, in our public store. So let's go compare those. Here's the app on this side, so let's swap those. Here's our admin site now. And we have this product list and product detail. Let's copy those into place. In our views, we also have a product list and product detail. Let's copy those into place. And we're ready to go. So, product detail. Now here in the product detail, we're gonna go grab the, not product detail, product list rather. We're gonna go grab all of the products in the normal way. We're gonna go fetch that from the API, and based on the results, everything works. We're then gonna go call this product list. Now in this case, we don't need to do all of the mayhem of showing pretty cards. It might be easier just to say, here's a table. So I'll say h1 product list, and let's go grab a grid that we can use to populate these details. vCard actions. Setting it inside of a vCard might not be a bad idea. Product list. Definitely don't need the calculator. vCard title. Oh, I'm looping through all the cards in here. That's interesting. So we may, let's put that H1 right there and go get the data. So off at Vuetify, there's this interesting table right here that does some really cool things, and that seems to fit pretty well. We'll go grab this template. Now this vData table is pretty interesting. Set that in place rather than this vCard. Or actually, I was going to set it inside the card. So vCard title. There we go. Now we're not doing for product and products, but rather product list card. Rather, we have these two properties. Now here it's not desserts, it's products. Items per page, let's show all of them. Class, that's okay. Headers, we'll definitely need to go find a header. So let's go grab the header detail. Oops. Back at data tables. Here's our data table, and we will go grab the headers. Now the headers lists the content that we want to show. That is interesting. So here's our products. We'll also include a data. And we want headers. Why is it called headers when it's both the headers and the content? Yeah, I don't know. That's not quite right. Data. Is it? There we go. So what columns do we want to appear? Let's go pull up our types and look at product. I noticed that this says description instead of description. Let's go fix that straight away. Description to description. Let's find all. Okay, we did that a few places. Thank you, VS Code. Now it is description. So what things do we want in this? I think the ID is interesting, but probably not super interesting. Product code is going to be quite interesting. Product code for product code. I think name could be cool. name for name, and active. That works. Now, one of the things that I find interesting here is that it could be cool to, oops, headers. There we go. It could be cool to show a link here off to the particular thing. So here we can say, I would like to do a template vslot equals vslot item.product code. I'm going to kind of take over how this works. So there's that template. And here inside this template, let's do something like router link 2 equals slash product slash item dot product code. And then inside here, we'll show item dot product code. Okay, so now we've got our kind of inner button that will link off to the things. We've got our headers in place. And so let's fire up this page. Ooh, one of the things, this array, there's a trick here that I found that is incredibly interesting, where we can, not that one, where we can say object as this function and give it a particular thing. So in their example, it's a strongly typed thing, object as complex object interface. So we always wanted it to be of types array, but we can say it's types of array that is a product array. And that might give us a little bit more context into how this works. Is that syntax right? Object as, not object colon. Object as, because ultimately what we're passing in is the constructor. Ooh, this is lang equals ts, not type equals ts. I grabbed the script tag and away we go. Let's see if we've done this before. Type equals ts. Yeah, there's a few places. Let's find an. Awesome. So now we can pull in that product and everything works. This is of type product array, and now we pulled in product from types product. And so I think this is, oh, there it goes. I think this is going to be fine. That's cool. Do we have any type errors now that we have a bunch of new pieces? Ooh, type of product here in product detail.view. Yes. Here in product detail.view, let's use that same trick. Now that it's no longer lang type equals ts, this will be an object as a product. Perfect. And the rest of them, I'm not sure why it's linting the node modules folder, but I think we're good to go. Now here in our product list, ooh, we don't have a button to navigate to our product list. Let's do that. In app, we do have buttons for logout if we're authenticated, and we should say that, yeah, the about page and the product list are both authenticated only pages. So products, we can say product list, and about, oh, we also need the route for the product list. Here's our about one. And so we'll say products, product list. The chunk can be products, product list, and product list. Similarly, we did this for the, let me save. We did this for our app as well. So let's go diff our router there. And we don't have the route guard in the app, but we do have this mechanism of grabbing the products and the product detail. So yeah, let's just go grab that. Oh, did I go the wrong way? I did. So, okay, we have our products that go off to products, and we have our product that goes off to product with a :ID. Now, we don't have product :ID in the navigation because I need to pick which product. But one of the things that we did do as we were first starting out was we hard-coded one that was kind of interesting. Okay, so I get no buttons while I'm not authenticated. Let's log in. And now I have an about page and a product list page. In time, after login, we may want to go straight to the product list rather than going to about. Okay, so we've got two headers there. Let's come in here to product list, and we'll remove the second header. We don't need two headers. It also looks like this max width of 400 is biting us. Let's not do that. Okay, so now we have our product grid. We're showing the things, and if I click on here, we can go off to that product. Now we'll want to make this into a form as well, but it would be nice if I could just click the row too. Oh, and this is active 1. I wanted this to be active true or false. I suspect that's a problem in the API. Let's go look in the API. Well, as the API products, there. As the API returns these rows, the rows actually come back from the database as 1 or 0. So let's just say rows, if rows, rows.for each row, and let's say r.active equals not r.active. And now we're just transforming all of those from 1s and 0s into trues and falses. That'll get us through there. And so let's restart our server. Yes. npm start. Let's refresh. Now, because we didn't persist the thing, we're back to our login page. Thus, we may want to revisit the persisting of it. Ooh, invalid password because we got a server error. Is this up yet? I think it is. I'm guessing we just hit it too fast. Let's log in again. Yeah, that was cool. Let's switch this login page. After we log in, login. After we log in, let's go to products instead. That's pretty cool. Okay, so product list. We've got our product list. This is saying true now. That's perfect. Let's get the clicking on the row to work. So clicking on the row. If I come in here and I say, oh, this is the product page, product list. I would like to say click on a row equals navigate. Okay, so let's go make a navigate method. Now I still have this link and we verified that that link works correctly. That's good. But methods, let's build a navigate method. Navigate. Now this navigate is actually pretty sweet because all we need to do is just grab the item that is a product, and we will say this $router.push /product/item.product_code. Perfect. So now I can either click that blue link, or if I'm lazy, I can just click anywhere. and we get to our product list page. That's perfect. Now here we want it to not be the product detail, but, oh, expected object got array. I think here we may want to say array as, there we go. Here in product detail, we want to swap this out with a form. So heading off back to Vuetify, we can land on form. We can just pick from here and we'll go, oh, form. Form. We'll use regular validation. So here's a good form to start with. Here's that V form. Now this definitely has more content than we want. That's totally fine. Pardon me. Inside vcard text, we'll set this form in place. Product.name. I'm also going to say product. I'll give it product.name up top there, but I'm also going to have this P for product.id. And because it might be interesting sometimes to know what that product ID is. It doesn't need to be the highlight of it, but it's important to do it. This we will have an @submit equals save. So we'll have that save method. Let's come back down here to this save method. We probably won't need quite as many of these. So I will pull those out. Methods, save. Now this will definitely be an async. And if not this dot valid, then dump out right away. And now we need to do other stuff to do save. Okay, what properties do we want to prompt for? Here inside our product type, we have all of these properties. So let's go look at those. Product detail. We don't need to modify number. Product code. Let's go grab product code. And this will be product.product code because it's on that product object. Product code rules. Counter. Yeah, I don't need counter. Oh, actually, yeah, the counter might be interesting. Product code. How long does product code need to be? As we look at the SQL, product code is, the length is not set. We could set that in our application as a specific length, but for now, let's leave it blank. Product code, it is required though. The next one, name, we've got name here, but it is product.name. Is there a length on name? Back in our SQL, our database is going to validate this. MemSQL will validate it at 100 characters. So the count will be 100 characters. Name rules, name is perfect. Description. Product.description. MemSQL is going to validate description at 512 characters. 512. Description. In time, we may want to do more about being able to render Markdown or other things. To do properties, we'll make a custom control there in time that will be able to add and remove JSON properties. And it'll be really fun to see the MemSQL JSON types when we get there. But the last piece that we need is the active flag. So this checkbox will work out really nicely for that. Here's a checkbox. And we don't need to agree to it because it might be not active. Active vModel is not checkbox, but rather product.active, and it is not required. This we don't want to validate right there. The color can be primary. And this type equals submit. We'll say save. We don't need any other buttons, but we might come back and add a save message in time. So how does that card look? Yeah, that works out pretty well. Here's the test product. As I do the things, ooh, maybe we want to say product code up here. Let's do that. Product code. Okay, so now as I change my product code, I'm doing that. And we notice that it's actually changing real data. So we may want to say, you know, I want to make a copy of this object. If we were going to edit this in line, then we would definitely want to make a copy of it so that our array doesn't actually get modified. Our original product list doesn't get modified if we don't push save. We haven't created all the rules. Let's go create some rules. So data is one of these. And we have product code rules. We have name rules. We have description rules. And I think that's what all the warnings were. We also have this that talks about valid. We could call that, I don't know, form valid. Maybe that's a little bit more descriptive than just valid. Form valid. And nothing has told us it's not valid yet, so that's a good default. Have we grabbed all of them? I think we have. Now here, as we define the rules, not that, forms, as we define the rules rules built into the Vue validator are these scripts that do really interesting things like this. So here's the name rules that we had, and we can set those in place. Name rules. Now in this case, the name rule is that name is required, and name must be, how long is the name? The name must be less than 100 characters. So if it's less than or equal to 100 characters, we're good. Name must be 100 characters or less. And that is a good rule. If we wanted to get really good here, we could say this is of type string. And now TypeScript just understands that these are the things associated with that. Product code rules. We don't have a length for product code, but we do know it's required. But there is an interesting rule here where it's doing some email validation. And so let's do some of that. We'll want to do the server side as well. But let's say that the value here must be A to Z, capital A to capital Z, and 0 to 9. So you can only use letters and numbers. Product code must be only letters and numbers. That regular expression is pretty cool. Regular expressions are amazing. Description rules. If I remember right, we only have a length. It is not required. Description must be 750 characters or less. Let's go double check that in our SQL. 512. 512 characters or less. 512 characters or less. Now I don't like the duplication here where we have to list it here and there. I would rather just be able to say max length, use the HTML5 properties, but the way this validation system works, that's the way it works. Okay, so we've got our form, and right now save does nothing. Oh, save does a whole lot of nothing. That's really interesting. Oh, because we refreshed. Let's log in. We get to our product list. We can navigate to a particular product, and then ultimately save will do nothing. It will validate that it does what it needs to do. Description must be 512 characters or less, and it's required. And so the name is what it is. The product code can't be funky characters, but it also can't be too long. Oh, it can be as long as it needs to be. It can't be that semicolon though, so. Ooh, we may have a, nope, there it goes. We may have a bug in that regular expression. So that was really cool. We got the authentication story built out just fine. We are able to log in. We're able to guard our routes so that they aren't hit when we don't mean to. And we're able to log out. In time, we may want to persist the token in a secure way, but we haven't done that yet. We did look at JSON tokens and got a feel for what's the content there, and then we dialed out our form. Next up, we'll need to persist that form off to the server and be able to do all of those insert, update, and delete things. As we get closer there, what'll be really cool, we'll get to see memSQL's JSON notation so that we can push content into arrays and pull content back out without having to replace the entire thing. So join us next week as we wire up all of these save pieces into the database, and see you next week on the memSQL Developer Livestream.